only to its realities. He is a soldier, a general. He can influence the bloodthirsty war dogs, while I resist their propensities vainly. The cause is simple. Burke has said that in all bodies those who would lead must also in a considerable degree follow. I cannot follow, for I do not sympathize in their dreams of massacre and glory. To follow and to lead in such a career is the natural bent of Raymond's mind. He is always successful, and bids fair at the same time that he acquires high name and station for himself, to secure liberty, probably extended empire, to the Greeks. Perdita's mind was not softened by this account. He, she thought, can be great and happy without me. Would that I also had a career! Would that I could freight some untried bark with all my hopes, energies, and desires, and launch it forth into the ocean of life, bound for some attainable point, with ambition or pleasure at the helm. But adverse winds detain me on shore. Like Ulysses, I sit at the water's edge and weep. But my nerveless hands can neither fell the trees nor smooth the planks. Under the influence of these melancholy thoughts, she became more than ever in love with sorrow. Yet Adrian's presence did some good. He at once broke through the law of silence observed concerning Raymond. At first she started from the unaccustomed sound. Soon she got used to it, and to love it, and she listened with avidity to the account of his achievements. Clara got rid also of her restraint. Adrian and she had been old playfellows, and now, as they walked or rode together, he yielded to her earnest entreaty, and repeated, for the 100th time, some tale of her father's bravery, munificence, or justice. Each vessel in the meantime brought exhilarating tidings from Greece. The presence of a friend in its armies and councils made us enter into the details with enthusiasm, and a short letter now and then from Raymond told us how he was engrossed by the interests of his adopted country. The Greeks were strongly attached to their commercial pursuits, and would have been satisfied with their present acquisitions, had not the Turks roused them by invasion. The patriots were victorious. A spirit of conquest was instilled, and already they looked on Constantinople as their own. Raymond rose perpetually in their estimation, but one man held a superior command to him in their armies. He was conspicuous for his conduct and choice of position in a battle fought in the plains of Thrace, on the banks of the Hebrus, which was to decide the fate of Islam. The Mahometans were defeated, and driven entirely from the country west of this river. The battle was sanguinary, the loss of the Turks apparently irreparable. The Greeks, in losing one man, forgot the nameless crowd, strode upon the bloody field, and they ceased to value themselves on a victory, which cost them Raymond. At the battle of Macri he had led the charge of cavalry, and pursued the fugitives even to the banks of the Hebrus. His favourite horse was found grazing by the margin of the tranquil river. It became a question whether he had fallen among the unrecognized, but no broken ornament or stained trapping betrayed his fate. It was suspected that the Turks, finding themselves possessed of so illustrious a captive, resolved to satisfy their cruelty rather than their avarice, and, fearful of the interference of England, had come to the determination of concealing forever the cold-blooded murder of the soldier they most hated and feared in the squadrons of the enemy. Raymond was not forgotten in England. His abdication of the Protectorate had caused an unexampled sensation, and when his magnificent and manly system was contrasted with the narrow views of succeeding politicians, the period of his elevation was referred to with sorrow. The perpetual recurrence of his name, joined to most honourable testimonials in the Greek gazettes, gave up the interest he had excited. He seemed the favourite child of fortune, and his untimely loss eclipsed the world and showed forth the remnant of mankind with diminished lustre. They clung with eagerness to the hope held out that he might yet be alive. Their minister at Constantinople was urged to make the necessary perquisitions, and should his existence be ascertained, to demand his release. It was to be hoped that their efforts would succeed, and that though now a prisoner, the sport of cruelty and the mark of hate, he would be rescued from danger, and restored to the happiness, power, and honour which he deserved. The effect of this intelligence upon my sister was striking. She never for a moment credited the story of his death. She resolved instantly to go to Greece. Reasoning and persuasion were thrown away upon her. She would endure no hindrance, no delay. It may be advanced for a truth, that if argument or entreaty can turn any one from a desperate purpose, whose motive and end depends on the strength of the affections only, then it is right so to turn them, since their docility shows that neither the motive nor the end were of sufficient force to bear them through the obstacles attendant on their undertaking. If, on the contrary, they are proof against expostulation, this very steadiness is an omen of success, and it becomes the duty of those who love them to assist in smoothing the obstructions in their path. Such sentiments actuated our little circle. Finding Perdita immovable, we consulted as to the best means of furthering her purpose. She could not go alone to a country where she had no friends, where she might arrive only to hear the dreadful news which must overwhelm her with grief and remorse. Adrian, whose health had always been weak, now suffered considerable aggravation of suffering from the effects of his wound. Idris could not endure to leave him in this state, nor was it right either to quit or take with us a young family for a journey of this description. I resolved at length to accompany Perdita. The separation from my Idris was painful, but necessity reconciled us to it in some degree. Necessity and the hope of saving Raymond and restoring him again to happiness and Perdita. No delay was to ensue. 2 days after we came to our determination, we set out for Portsmouth, and embarked. The season was May, the weather stormless. We were promised a prosperous voyage. Cherishing the most fervent hopes, embarked on the waste oceans, we saw with delight the receding shore of Britain, and on the wings of desire outspeeded our well-filled sails towards the south. The light curling waves bore us onward, and old Ocean smiled at the freight of love and hope committed to his charge. It stroked gently its tempestuous plains, and the path was smoothed for us. Day and night the wind right aft gave steady impulse to our keel, nor did rough gale, or treacherous sand, or destructive rock interpose an obstacle between my sister and the land which was to restore her to her first beloved, her dear heart's confessor, a heart within that heart. End of Volume 1, Chapter 10.